Hello and welcome to a new video on my YouTube channel. First eine Info to my German-speaking viewers. Dieses Video ist auch mit deutschem Kommentar verfügbar. Der Link zum deutschsprachigen Video findet ihr in der Videobeschreibung. This video is about the Zense Simwheels UNIFLEX-Elite sim racing steering wheel. A steering wheel with dashboard, 2 clutch pedals, 4 magnetic shifters and RGB buttons. And all for just over €1000. You can find out whether the steering wheel belongs in the high-end category or rather in the mid-range category in this video.
Let's Go Race, the channel for virtual motorsport.
First, I will show you the steering wheel in detail in this video. I will talk about the individual components installed and included in the package, say something about the materials and explain how the steering wheel feels, also in comparison to other steering wheels. Then I will do a summary of the steering wheel. And at the end of the video, I will do a test drive with the steering wheel in the form of my triple screen onboard videos in my motion simulator. I can already say one thing in advance. I had the steering wheel in 2 versions, with normal 3D printed clutches and clutches that were made using the multi-jet fusion 3D printing process. The package includes the steering wheel, the USB cable, an additional sticker kit, optionally a second variant of clutch pedals, and various screws. Let's start with the materials and the technical data of the steering wheel. The steering wheel has a diameter or width of 300mm and weighs 1470 grams in my configuration, including the screw-on adapter on the back. With a diameter of 300mm, the steering wheel fits very well in various motorsport categories. It is not too big for Formula 1 and not too small for GT3 or Le Mans prototypes. But at 300mm, the steering wheel tends to be closer to GT3 and Le Mans prototype steering wheels. The grips have a width of around 33mm in the lower half and around 31mm in the upper half in the thumb index finger area. The width in the depth of the grips is 42mm over the entire length. The 2 grips on my steering wheel are covered with leather. However, they are also available with rubber-like grips for €100 surcharge, like this on Usher Racing or Cube-controlled steering wheels. The grip of the leather is very good, regardless of whether you drive with or without gloves. However, I always recommend gloves for leather grips, otherwise the grips wear out too quickly. The look of the leather is okay, but I've also had steering wheels where the leather looked better. However, there's not much left of the beautiful look of the leather grips after a few months anyway, because leather wears out, especially if you don't care for the grips. The workmanship of the leather is good, as you can see from the transitions. As you can see, the grips are rather angular with large rodi, and not round like the most steering wheels. I like grips with round grips better, as they feel better in my hand. The grips fit well in the hand, but you notice when you hold them that they are not quite round. Whether you like round or square with large rodi better is up to you to decide. I should also mention that you shouldn't have thumbs that are too big. The area where you place your thumbs has a relatively small radius and doesn't offer a lot of space. If you have small or medium wide thumbs, this is not a problem, but with wide thumbs, it will be very tight. Because I drive with real motorsport gloves which have a certain thickness, there should not be much less space for me. Otherwise, there would not be enough space for my medium-sized thumb either. The grips tend to be for tight or medium-wide fingers or hands. But if you have hands like mine or smaller, you should be able to use them very well. By the way, I have size 8 gloves in my motorsport gloves. If you have a small thumb, it might even be an advantage that the grips are a little tighter in this area. Back to the material of the grips. For €100 more, I will buy the grips made of the rubber-like material. It looks better in the long term as it doesn't wear out. You don't have to wear gloves. It's easier to keep clean. It doesn't require any care. And I've always had very good experiences with this type of grips. As you can see, the steering wheel has a forged carbon front plate. This has a thickness of 5 mm and a rather matte and smooth surface. The workmanship is very good and forged carbon looks incredibly good on the steering wheel. The steering wheel housing is made entirely of CNC machined aluminium, is anodized matte black and has a smooth surface. The quality, finish and appearance of the housing are extremely good. Thanks to the carbon front plate in combination with the aluminium housing, the steering wheel has a very good stability and stiffness. The lettering on and at the back of the housing is a sticker, but it sticks very well and has a very good quality. Now we continue with the buttons, the rotary switches and the funky switch joysticks. The steering wheel has 10 push buttons. The button caps are all plastic. The push button also have RGB lighting. There's also a sticker from the sticker kit on each button. As the stickers arrive already stuck on, I would have liked the stickers to be a little more centered because some of them are a little off center. However, there's also a second set of stickers included in the scope of delivery in case it bothers you. The buttons have a single point of resistance. With a resistance of 4.9 Newton, the resistance point of the buttons is very tight and also has a short push range. The buttons make also a very nice and audible clicking sound when pressed. To summarize, the push buttons feel extremely good and crisp and provide a very good feedback. With a diameter of around 14 mm, the buttons are quite large. The buttons have also a kind of button guard made of aluminium. The height of the button guard is just as high as the buttons, so you press the buttons into the button guard. Thanks to the size of the buttons, you have no problems pressing them fully, with or without gloves. I'm a fan of the large buttons, as you never miss them and can locate them very easily thanks to the button guard. Now we continue with the 5 rotary switches in the center of the steering wheel. All rotary switches have 16 positions in which they engage. On the PC, the rotary switches are each recognized with 2 signals. Turning clockwise is one function and turning anti-clockwise is one function. All rotary switches are infinitely rotatable. The resistance of the rotary switches is tight and the engagement points are very easy to feel. The rotary switches have a good size and are very easy to operate with 2 fingers. Each rotary switch also has a push button function. The resistance of the push button function is very tight, has a short push travel, and makes a really nice and audible clicking sound when pressed. The rotary knobs are made of anodized aluminum and have a matte and smooth surface. The rotary switches look very good and are very well made. Like the 10 buttons, the rotary switches have RGB background lighting, which can be set via SimHub. What bothers me very much are the stickers on the rotary switches. The quality of the stickers is very good, but the numbers don't match the position of the rotary switch. There are 16 positions, but the sticker only goes up to 12, which definitely should not be the case. Now we come to the funky switch joysticks. We have 7 functions here. The first function is the push function. Here, the joystick works like a push button. The push button function is very tight, has only one point of resistance, has a short push range, and makes a nice and audible clicking sound. The joystick can also be pushed to the left, up, right, and down. The resistance of the four-way function is tight and can be felt very well. The clicking noise is also very good to hear. The four-way function works very good. Sometimes with joysticks like this, it is difficult to press in a certain direction because the joystick has no guide. This is completely different here. Just because you press the joystick a little crooked, you don't have to worry about pressing the joystick in the wrong direction. The guidance of the four-way function is very precise and straight. The joystick can also be used as a rotary switch. The rotary switch function has 13 positions in which it engages. The rotary switch function is recognized on the PC with 2 signals. Turning clockwise is one function and turning anti-clockwise is one function. The rotary switch function can be turned infinitely. The rotary switch function engages noticeably in each of the 30 positions. The resistance and engagement of the individual positions is very tight. I would like to highlight something very positive here. When you turn the joystick, it does not tilt to the side because it is very stable. I have seen this differently with steering wheels in this price segment. It is almost impossible to accidentally push the joystick to the side when you turn it. In summary, the joystick is a very good and helpful function with which you can, for example, navigate in the menu, navigate in the pit menu during the race, or make settings in the iRacing black box. The joystick is printed made of resin, but it has a relatively smooth surface. Although the joystick is very small, it is very easy to operate. The labeling on the joystick is a sticker like on the buttons. The joystick can be ordered in aluminium for an extra 50 euros. But I don't think that's necessary. The resin joystick is perfectly adequate and you have no advantage with an aluminium joystick. The 4.3-inch USB-D 480 display and the 20 RGB LEDs on the front cannot be overlooked. These are embedded in the steering wheel. Above this, you can see an aluminium cover which is around 1 to 2 mm thick and is screwed onto the carbon plate. As you can see, the display has a matte and therefore non-reflective surface. Glossy displays may have more saturated colors, but matte displays are not sensitive to light. This means that almost nothing is reflected in the display. There are various ways to operate the USB-D 480 display and the 20 LEDs. The best known and also the software I recommend is SimHub. With SimHub, you have unlimited access to all functions and features of the dashboard, including all the LEDs and the display. Because it is a USB-D 480 display, Z1 dashboard, dash panel and many more are also compatible with the display. However, only few of them support the RGB LED function. I use SimHub to be able to use all the functions. Once SimHub is open and the steering wheel has been recognized by the software, we can configure the display and the LEDs as we like under devices in SimHub. On the LCD page, we can make all the settings for the display, brightness, frames per second, and also the dashboard layout can be set here. You can download more dashboards from various sim racing sites, such as Race Department, or you can create your own dashboard layout with a little practice. On the second page, called LEDs, we can configure the 20 LEDs and the RGB lighting of the buttons and rotary switches. With the 20 RGB LEDs, you can set a lot of information the way you want it. The brightness of the LEDs can be adjusted, the colors, flashing signals with different flashing intervals can be configured, and much more. If you want to get an overview, the SimHub software can be downloaded free of charge. The background lighting of the buttons and rotary switches can be configured under buttons lighting. Flashing signals can also be added. For example, the background lighting of the pit speed limiter flashes when the pit speed limiter is activated in the simulation. A large number of signals can be configured here. On the controls page, you can also assign buttons to specific functions. For example, I always have a button configured on my steering wheel with which I can switch between the pages of the dashboards. Let's continue on the back. Here you will find a spacer with the screw-on spots for your quick release in the middle. The spacer is made of aluminium and is black anodized. The diameter of the bolt cycle is 70 mm, and the 6 holes have a diameter of 5.6 mm, making them suitable for M5 screws. The connection for the USB cable is in the lower area. Here you will find an SF12 connection with several pins. The cable cannot be removed from the steering wheel thanks to the lock. To release the cable, the connector must first be unlocked. On the other side of the spiral cable is a USB-A 3.0. The cable makes a stable impression. Despite the spiral shape, the cable is too short for most people to get from the steering wheel to the USB hub, but I have been told that the longer cable will soon be available. You should also make sure that you have a USB hub or USB port with at least 64 watt. If not, you can order a 64 watt USB hub for an additional €30. The steering wheel can be ordered with up to 4 magnetic shifters. 4 shifters cost €50 more than just 2 shifters. The shifters are made of aluminium, CNC machined and matte black anodized. The pedals of the shifters are made of carbon and are 3 mm thick. The position of the shifters and pedals cannot be changed. However, the positioning is very comfortable. The shifters really feel extremely good. The shift travel is short and very tight. The shifters also make a very nice and loud clicking noise. What I don't like is that no contactless sensors have been installed. As you can see under the pedal, the signal is sent to the PC via a mechanical micro switch which sends a signal when the shifter is pressed. Last but not least, I will show you the 2 clutch pedals. As you saw at the beginning of the video, I have the steering wheel in 2 variants. By default, the clutches are delivered in the normal 3D print variant. The clutches in the Multijet Fusion 3D print variant are installed on the steering wheel on request. The surcharge per clutch is 5 euros. From this video, you can see that the normal 3D print variant flexes a little more than the MJF variant. I can only recommend that you order the MJF version of the clutches. The MJF printed clutches look much better, are more stable, and are also much more precise. You can also see from this video that the normal 3D printed version is very imprecise, as it is not as stiff as the MJF version. There is an extreme flickering, which you can see especially when you hold the clutch still. The resistance of the clutches, which is generated by a spring, is really very firm. Also, in comparison to any other steering wheels I have been able to test so far. Personally, I found it difficult to operate the clutch precisely with my little finger. However, it is easy to control with the middle finger and ring finger. But I have to say that the clutch could be a little lighter for my taste. It's not that it would be annoying, but a little lighter would be perfect. In my opinion, the clutch range is good. Compared to other steering wheels, it is between 2 and 3 mm longer. Unfortunately, the signal of the clutches is not contactless, which can be recognized by the golden signal transmitter. Contactless would of course be much better, as the error rate and failure rate would be significantly lower. Alongside the clutches, the shifters are also not contactless. So for me, these are the two most important points why the steering wheel belongs in the mid-range steering wheel category and not in the high-end steering wheel category. The carbon pedals have a thickness of 3 mm. For the pedals, I recommend that you order the 2 additional long pedals or just the long pedals. I find the small ones a bit too short. The long pedals also reduce the resistance of the clutch a little bit. There is no extra charge for replacing the long pedals with the short ones. Having both versions included costs 5 euro per pedal. You can configure the clutch with the free FreeJoy software. Once the steering wheel has been recognized in the software, you can set the clutches under the Axle Configuration tab. First, however, you must click on the Read Configuration from the Voice field on the left-hand side every time you start the software. Now you can configure the clutch range on the right-hand side using the green bar. The software does not have to be started every time you want to drive, only if you want to make settings on the clutches. After that, write the matching values in the field on the right-hand side until you like the clutch range. And then press the Write Configuration to the Voice button. Only then will the settings take effect on the steering wheel and will be saved there. As you can see, we also have a slight flickering with the MJF clutches. If this is not too extreme, as with the 3D printed clutches, we can eliminate this with the filter in the software. First, we make a check mark on the advanced settings field. Then we can adjust the filter until there is no more flickering. However, you should not set the value too high. Otherwise, the clutch will react too slowly, as you can see in the video. I think 4 or 5 is a very good value. 7 is too much. If you have two clutches on the steering wheel, the clutch can be defined as a master and slave clutch. To do this, set the function of one of the two clutches to plus, and the function access to the other clutch. After that, you need to set the bite point. This is known to be different for every car. It must therefore be set differently for each car. The bite point is the area of the clutch at which the clutch engages and the car starts to roll. We set this here in percent. If we now pull this clutch completely, the clutch is not at 100%, but at 50%. At the start, we pull both clutches. When the lights are green, release clutch 2 and you are directly at the bite point you have set with clutch 1. This gives you a perfect start, as was allowed for many years in Formula 1. It is important to note that we define the clutch in the simulation as the clutch on which the bite point is set. Otherwise, it will not be recognized in the simulation. That's all there is to say about the steering wheel. Now we come to the final conclusion and the cost of the steering wheel. The steering wheel costs €1,064 including VAT, with 4 shifters, 2 MJF clutches, leather grips and the resin joysticks. What I will change will be the rubber-like grips for €100 more. At €1,164, you are dealing with a steering wheel that is priced in the mid-range price segment. High-end steering wheels with a dashboard and a similar function range usually cost €1,500 or more. And for this money, the steering wheel is very good. The buttons and rotary switches feel like a high-end steering wheel. In addition, you have RGB backlighting on the buttons and rotary switches. The shifters feel extremely good and the clutches are fine. However, both are not contactless. This has a big influence on the fact that the steering wheel cannot be categorized by me as high-end in technical terms. But as already mentioned, you also pay significantly less than with other steering wheels. The grips are also fine, but in my opinion are less suitable for large hands or big thumbs. In summary, I can recommend a steering wheel for the price. It is a steering wheel in the mid-range segment, but with ambitions in the high-end segment. However, small mistakes such as the stickers on the rotary switches should be changed, as they do not match the engagement points of the rotary switches. This should not be the case with any steering wheel, no matter how expensive or cheap it is. I hope you enjoyed the video and I was able to answer all your questions. If you have any further questions, you can write them in the comments. A link to the steering wheel is also in the video description. Now we come to the promised triple screen onboard video in my motion simulator. Have fun with it and see you next time.